It's amazing to see so many young faces in the audience. I hope that you enjoy getting to hear a little bit about my journey towards becoming an astronaut, as well as some of the advice that I've received over the last couple years. Since I was 5 years old, I can remember looking up at the night sky and dreaming. I wondered what the stars were, how many of them there were. But most of all, I dreamed of someday going there. I didn't know how and I didn't know when, but I knew that it would happen. I would go to space. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, my dad gave me a book called The Universe. It was a massive coffee table book filled with pictures and information about, well, everything in the universe, or at least I thought that at the time. In fact, it was quite similar to this book, which was given to me recently by the Assistant Director General of the MBRSC, Mona Al-Kimzi. When I looked through this book, which is all focused on the Emirates Mars mission, I'm reminded of my childhood, of paging through my own massive space book and trying to memorize what a quark was, or all the names of Jupiter's moons. The more I read and learned about space, the greater my excitement and wonder for space travel grew. Eventually, I set out a new goal. Not only was I going to become an astronaut and travel to space, but I was going to be the first astronaut to step foot on Mars. Now, as a kid saying that I wanted to be an astronaut, I was often regarded in the same manner that you would regard a kid who says that they want to be a princess or a superhero. People often clump astronaut into this group of childish or unattainable dreams, and with that, it gets discarded as something that you'll grow out of. But I didn't grow out of it, and eventually people began to take notice. The first person, other than myself, to believe in my dream was my mom. Aww. When I was 11 years old, my mom realized that I was still saying that I wanted to be an astronaut. And it only took me 6 years of incessantly talking about space for her to notice. My mom sat me down and she very seriously told me, if you want to be an astronaut, you need to set out a plan now and you need to start working towards it, because so few people actually become astronauts. We can view this by looking at the most recent astronaut selection in the United States. This past year, 18,000 people applied to be astronauts, and only 8 to 14 of them will be chosen. Those are, you could say, astronomical odds. So my mom sat me down and she said, if this is something that you want to do, if you want to join this elite group of people who are actually successful at becoming astronauts, you need to start planning and working towards it now. That was a little bit daunting for an 11-year-old to be asked to plan the next 20 to 30 plus years of their life. But I went out and I did it, and I came back the next day with research, different outlines of how I could go about making this dream a reality. That's when my mom became my biggest supporter, and has stayed so ever since. From that point on, everything that I did had to do with space, or almost everything. From projects to papers, I had a plan, and I was integrating both my learning and my life into that plan. When I was 13 years old, I made a big step in talking about my plans when I went on Twitter to get a quote from a NASA employee for a National History Day project I was working on. What I found there surprised me. There was a whole community of space enthusiasts on Twitter who were excited about my bold declaration of wanting to be the first astronaut to Mars. It was through this community that I heard about the final launch of STS-134, Space Shuttle Endeavour. Well, there we go. Space Shuttle Endeavour was the second to last shuttle to ever launch. My mom decided that I should go down and see it, and so with her support, I traveled the 3,000 kilometers from my home state of Minnesota down to Florida to view this launch. Now, viewing this launch, ended up being a big part of the journey that I'm on now as a space ambassador throughout the world. And so I want to tell you a little bit about what happened while I was in Florida at this launch. I had spent weeks prior to the launch imagining what it would be like to see the fiery tail, the plumes of smoke, to hear the ground-trembling roar of the engines, and to feel the shaking. I'd watched countless videos of launches, and so I thought I knew what to expect. I expected this. I maybe had built the launch up a little bit too much in my mind, and so it was bound to disappoint, but oh boy, did it disappoint. When the day finally came, the sky was overcast with thick layers of clouds, and you could hardly see the launch. The shuttle was there and gone in 4 seconds flat. In fact, I took this picture just moments after the shuttle passed so that you can all see exactly how much of the shuttle I saw. You could say that I was a little bit disappointed about that. So, if I hardly saw the shuttle, why am I standing in front of you right now telling you that this launch was such an important, such a central, and such a life-altering moment for me? Well, it's because it was at this launch that I realized, that I learned, that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And even more than that, it's about the people that you meet along the way. For me, it was one person in particular. On my way home from the launch, through a variety of serendipitous coincidences, I ended up meeting newly commissioned European Space Agency astronaut Luca Parmitano. I sat down with Luca for about 2 hours, and we talked about everything, from his job as an astronaut to my dreams of someday going to Mars. Luca gave me a piece of advice, which I think was really unique and has a lot of meaning for careers that aren't even in the space industry, and so I would love to share that with you. He told me to do what you love, not what you think NASA wants you to do. Because NASA is looking for people who are passionate about what they do. Upon departing, Luca taught me one more thing, this time through his actions, rather than directly through his words. Luca gave me his email address and said, "I will be your astronaut. If you have any more questions, please email me." By doing this, Luca showed me that to have a dream doesn't just mean to blindly chase after your own goals, but instead it means also to recognize those around you and extend a helping hand when you can. With the lessons that Luca had taught me, as well as knowing that there was this incredible community on Twitter of space enthusiasts who were there encouraging me, I decided that I could use social media for more than just a quote for a school project. This was my chance to make a difference in the world. I started a blog at astronautabby.com and began writing about my journey towards becoming an astronaut, both on my website and through social media channels. I hoped that by writing about my journey towards becoming an astronaut and the first astronaut on Mars, I would be able to personally involve people and inspire them to reach after their own big dreams as well. Now, in the winter of 2013, when I was 15 years old, my mentor Luca invited me to come to Baikonur, Kazakhstan, and watch his Soyuz launch to the International Space Station. Soyuz launches aren't quite like what shuttle launches were like, in the sense that at a shuttle launch, you can have hundreds of thousands of people gathered around to watch it. But for a Soyuz launch, it's much less than that. Each astronaut or cosmonaut who's on the Soyuz gets 15 viewing tickets that they can give out to their close friends and family. When Luca gave me 2 of his, I was overjoyed. You could even say that I was over the moon with joy. Sorry. But once my joy started to come down to a more normal level, I thought about it and I realized that there were hundreds of thousands, millions even, of people around the world who would be just as excited as I was to get to see this launch. And I thought, that's not right. I don't deserve to see this launch any more than anyone else in the world does. And so with that goal in mind, to share Luca's launch from the Soyuz, as well as work as his Earth liaison during his 6 months in space, working and living, and generally create more excitement for space travel, I started an educational outreach program. I was hoping to share this experience, as well as my own excitement for space with kids and adults everywhere. The action of deciding to start this program led me to have many more incredible experiences. I ended up touring the United States and even the world in some instances, viewing mission control rooms, labs, space production facilities, and more. But even more importantly than having those experiences was the fact that I was able to share those experiences with millions of people around the world through social media. So you may have noticed by now that I'm a very optimistic person. I'm very big on having dreams and on following them. And I want to tell you why. I grew up during a time when we had astronauts launching to space every couple of months. I grew up during a time when you could go on YouTube and you could watch videos of the Apollo missions. You could watch astronauts walk on the moon. At the click of a fingertip, you could listen to famous speeches by people like President John F. Kennedy, in which they talked about the value of space travel to humankind. I grew up during a time when we believed as a generation that the sky was not the limit, it was merely the beginning. I'd like to share with you one quote from a speech given in 1961 by President Kennedy, which resonated particularly strongly with me as a kid. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. There we go. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one which we are willing to accept, one that we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win. Our world has not been the same since then. It has been better. We have enjoyed the use of satellites, cell phones, medical technology, which I believe you heard about in a previous talk, and so much more because of space exploration. Every time that we put our minds towards space exploration as a nation, but even more than that as a world, we can see the benefits reaped both at home and worldwide. But even more than that, the benefit that we see from space travel is that we learn as a society that no dream is too big or too unattainable when we try our hardest. Now, the spirit of this challenge is now being taken up in the United Arab Emirates. His Highness Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, as well as the Space Center, has invested in this country to be leaders in the future of space exploration. I'd like to share with you a quote from Sheikh Mohammed, which I believe espouses this idea. We chose the epic challenge of reaching Mars because epic challenges inspire us and motivate us. The moment we stop taking on such challenges is the moment we stop moving forwards. The future and what we can do is in your hands. And as you join me in the United States, as well as people in countries around the world who are continuing to collaborate to expand our horizons and our knowledge of the unknown that exists in space, you are fortunate to live in a country which has a space program and is investing so deeply in your futures. The future is quite literally in all of your hands. So this brings me to the first of two main ideas which I would like to leave with you today, and that is that education is of the utmost importance. Education will be your most valuable asset to improve both your future and the future of the world. To the students in the audience, I implore you to value your studies. Find something in school which excites you, which you love and enjoy, which makes you happy and excited to come to school every day, and grab onto that. Focus your attention on that. For me, it was space exploration, but for each of you, it will be something different. Do not ever stop striving for excellence in education. That brings me to the second point, which I would like to share with you all, which is this idea known as the circle of inspiration. So the circle of inspiration is based on three main concepts working in tandem: dreaming big, acting big, and inspiring others. First, you have to have your dream. For me, this was space exploration and traveling to Mars. Dreams precede goals, which precede actions. Sometimes it might seem intimidating to have a dream as big even as going to Mars, and especially it might be intimidating to talk about that dream. But I want to remind you that it is only through dreamers that we can advance beyond what we know and think to be possible now. It's of the utmost importance that you talk about your dreams so that others can help you to create a path to making them a reality. Next, you have to act big. Once you have your dream, you have to act on it. This means taking the steps and actions that you need in order for your dream to become a reality. For me, right now, that means following the path that I laid out 8 years ago, which at this point in my life, when I'm 19, includes getting my undergraduate and eventually PhD degree in astrobiology, learning to fly, learning languages, internships, and many other things. For each of you, this will follow a different path, and you'll have different things that you need to include as big actions on your way towards your dream. I encourage you to start thinking about these steps now, and to make a list. Talk to adults around you who can advise you and help you to refine what your individual plan towards success should look like. Don't be afraid to be vocal about your dreams. So finally, that brings me to the last point in the circle of inspiration, which I actually think is the most important part of this idea, which is inspiring others. No one gets anywhere in this world alone. We depend on our communities for many things in life, and in return, our communities often depend on us. Our dreams and goals are nurtured by our friends, our parents, our teachers, our nations, and the world as a whole. It is our obligation to give back to these people, these communities, by inspiring and empowering the next generation of young people to walk in our footsteps and be change makers for a better future. So inspiring others can take a lot of different forms, but I'd like to highlight a couple of them that I talked about in this speech. One of them is that you can inspire others by reaching out to them and offering them a helping hand when they need it, as Luca did with me. Another way is that you can inspire others by talking publicly about your dreams, by sharing the journey or the experiences that you're having, as I'm trying to do as I strive to become an astronaut. Another way that you can inspire others is by doing great and inspiring things, such as pushing for excellence in space exploration, as countries like the UAE, the US, the European Union, and many other around the world are doing. So why is it that space exploration is so inspiring and so exciting? Why is it important that we focus on it? Well, space exploration has this incredible capacity to inspire and excite us, to push us beyond our boundaries, to have us go farther than we've ever gone before, to develop new technologies. And in doing so, by showing us that there are no limits, there's nothing that is truly impossible, just impossible right now. It helps to inspire generations to be great, to dream big, to act big, and in that to inspire others. Continuing forwards in space exploration will advance our technology, our knowledge, and most importantly, our youth. Making great leaps in space exploration inspires those on Earth to do great things as well, to become the scientists, the engineers, the policymakers, the writers, artists, and more, who will change our lives here on Earth. With the groundwork that is being laid right now, our generation is truly becoming the Mars generation. We will change the world that we live in. We will leave our mark on history, and it's our time. So thank you all for your attention today.